Excellennial here with another story-based Excel tutorial. Today with a special 4th of July edition. Today we're going to be talking about Phoebe and Alyssa, the Firework sisters. Phoebe and Alyssa love the 4th of July. Every year they work at a fireworks stand together, and they've noticed over the years that they make more money off of certain stand locations than others. The two of them are trying to find out what stands are the most profitable so that they can work those higher volume locations each year. To start off, what they did is they collected all of the information about each of the stands that they worked in the previous years. Here we can see that they worked in San Antonio and made just over $5,000 together. In Fort Worth at some point they made $3,474, and then the year after they made $5,306. So the fastest way to actually look and see where they made the most money is just going to be selecting the income cell, C1, going to the data tab and sorting Z to A, and moving all of the highest numbers to the top and the lowest numbers to the bottom. Now you can have a clear view of exactly where they made the most money and what year that was. So you can see here in 2016, they worked 2 different stands, and that's the year that they made the most money and the 2 stands that they made the most money in. And that's a clear view of Fort Worth and Beaumont being the 2 busiest and most profitable stands that they've used. So that's a really quick and easy way to do it, just with a quick sort. I do want to show another option too, which is to make a pivot table. So here's an example of a pivot table that I've already made, and I'll show how to actually make this in just a second. Pretty much all it does is it takes all the locations and then each of the years that they've worked, and then it shows exactly how much the locations were and how much they made total in that year. So just a quick view here, you can see exactly how much money they made each of those years and where they did it. Both ways are very simple. When it comes to the pivot table, we'll go to the Insert tab, select Pivot Table, and it already selects all of the data here. I'll add this to the existing pivot table worksheet that we already have, and select OK. Now what we're going to do is just pull the location to the rows. That's just adding one simple row of all the different locations that we have. The year, we're going to make those the columns. And then we're going to add the income to the values. Now this is exactly how I made this one before, and we can see quickly that the year that they made the most money was in 2016, and those were the stands, the Beaumont and Fort Worth stands that we saw on the original data sheet. It's saying the same data that we were able to calculate just from sorting from Z to A, that Beaumont and Fort Worth made them the most money out of all of the other stands, and that's the year that they made the most income from working the fireworks stands. So in this case, we had just 2 quick examples, sorting the income column from Z to A to find the highest income at the top, the lowest income at the bottom, and then calculating by year just how much money that would have been. And then under the pivot table, we can see just a clear view of each year, how much money was made total in that year, and then a clear view of the locations and how much money was made at each of those locations. The pivot table does have some additional advantages because we can see the history of when they made certain money and which year it was. So for example, one location that we brought up is the Fort Worth stand that they made in 2016, $5,306, but you can see in 2017 they actually made less than that at the Fort Worth stand. They only made $3,474. So this is something that they can take into consideration with the pivot table, which wouldn't necessarily be clear when just sorting the income from Z to A and having the highest be on the top and the lowest on the bottom, because you would have to take the additional steps of searching for, oh, okay, do we have any duplicate locations? Did we make that much more? Oh, okay, here's Fort Worth. So there's a little bit more work done on that front, whereas with the pivot table, you can just clearly see, okay, we worked at Fort Worth twice, and we made more money in 2016 as opposed to 2017. It still shows that they have made more money at this Fort Worth stand compared to some of the other locations. So they would have to balance between deciding if they wanted to try San Antonio again, which is a location that they did make over $5,000 at, or do they actually try it at Fort Worth, where at one point they made less than $5,000, whereas at one point they made more than $5,000. So this gives them a full view of what options that they have, and they can make a decision from there. Phoebe and Alyssa have a clear view now of what they've completed in the past and how much money they've made and what they should expect this year, or generally the outcome they should expect. They know now that Fort Worth and Beaumont have been their biggest locations in terms of how much money they've made, but they can also see that they made a little bit less that next year in Fort Worth. So they are going to have to take that into consideration when fully deciding what stands they're going to be working on. They do know as well what stands that they didn't make quite as much money on, so they can know what locations to avoid. If you have any questions about the processes, please leave a comment in the section below. And until next time, have fun excelling.